Welcome to the Therapy Show. I'm Lisa Mustard, your host and guide on this journey of learning and professional growth. Here, we transform the way you earn continuing education contact hours. Whether you're on a walk, on a break in between sessions, commuting, or even preparing dinner, you can engage with cutting-edge insights from leading subject matter experts. Each episode features conversations with seasoned professionals who share effective techniques and tools tailored for busy therapists like you. Our goal is to enrich your practice and fit seamlessly into your active life, ensuring you stay informed and inspired without the hassle of traditional methods. You can say goodbye to sitting in front of a computer screen watching hours and hours of recorded trainings. Instead, we make continuing education as easy and accessible as your favorite podcast. So make sure to visit the website, lisamustard.com, to sign up for our continuing education membership. It's a fantastic way to earn your credits while enjoying the podcast. Join us on the Therapy Show, where your professional development continues wherever you are. Well, hey friends, welcome back to another episode of the Therapy Show. I'm your host, Lisa Mustard, and this week's guest is Dawn Dominguez. Welcome to the show, Dawn. It is amazing to have you here.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm so looking forward to what you're going to be sharing. But before we dive into this week's topic, I want to remind everybody listening that this episode does qualify for one NBCC contact hour. Mustard Consulting is an approved NBCC provider. You can learn more about this pod course, as well as all the other pod courses that are available over on my website, which is lisamustard.com/pod courses. And that link will also be in the show notes. So now that we got that little bit of housekeeping out of the way, Dawn, if you could share with our listeners who you are, what you do, and maybe how you got here, I know that would be wonderful for them to hear all about you.
Awesome. Yeah, my name is Dawn Dominguez. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I started university in, 1987. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
So I started studying marriage and family therapy in 1987. I have a nonprofit counseling center here in Long Beach and in Palm Desert. We started in Northern California in the Sacramento area, and then moved out here to SoCal just in 2017. Started that in 2006. So we have students working here with us, getting their hours, and I supervise and help them get licensed. And it's really working well for the community. We offer sliding scale therapy for people who want to come in and have someone to talk to. And it's really working out for both the students and the clients in the community.
Well, it's wonderful. It sounds like an amazing training center, as well as a place for folks to get the therapy that they need. So what is your specialty, and how did you find it or discover it?
Oh, this is really interesting because I first I received therapy when I was about 15 years old. I was a foster child and a runaway, and I had this amazing therapist, and he really helped me understand myself differently. And when I started to see him, I decided I also wanted to be a therapist. So I decided to start going to school. Before that, I was failing out and decided, hey, I want to finish high school and go to university. So I'm the first one to do that in my family. So my initial goal getting my marriage and family therapy license was to work with young people, with adolescents. And I went to I don't know, it was some type of a conference. It was like probably a couples conference or something. And I met up with Harville Hendricks, and he was teaching some classes at that conference. And I just fell in love with the process and started working with couples right away. I wanted to practice. And I think that was about 2006 as well, right about the time I started the center. And it just went crazy. People were referring other couples, and I just started getting really busy. So my goal was never to really be a couples therapist, but I became a couples therapist through that weird encounter that I just stepped into his room that day and decided to study. So now I'm a certified Imago relationship therapist. I'm a certified encountered couples therapist as well, which is another program. And since then, I've created kind of my own combination of the two of those, and along with family systems and then also compassionate inquiry. I've invited in some of the John Bradshaw stuff from the 80s, which we've lost somehow along the way, some of it. And then I've invited in internal family systems therapy into the couples work, and then also compassionate inquiry, which is Gabor Mate's program. So all of that in with
Wow.
the couples. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. It sounds like you have really honed in on your niche and, how you help people. You've taken from so many different amazing practitioners and models. So do you have a name for it?
Right now, I'm still working on my name for it, but right now I'm thinking compassionate couples therapy or something around that. I've been playing with just different names for it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is your goal or your vision to be able to offer this training to other therapists out there?
Yes, that's what I want to do. I want to spread the idea that we can practice our couples therapy with a bit of a structure. So we would have a process and a structure, but then also inviting in who you are and the unique characteristics of the therapist and combining that with a compassionate process. So we're really inviting in compassion, curiosity, connection, and a flow that is unique to each therapist as well. So it's
Nice.
not, and I want it to be less packaged. I'd love to help people really become the best therapist they can be through this practice rather than a set guideline the way that I've been taught. Like, this is the way, this is the only way. I don't want that as much. I would love for you to find your way.
Nice. I really love that. If I think back to my grad school experience, that sounds a bit like the eclectic approach that they wanted us to eventually turn into, but yet hold back on actually trying to be eclectic until you kind of mastered some of the other models that are out there and really figure out what fits you as a MFT. So I love this kind of discussion because at my heart, that's where, that's why I originally got into this work was I wanted to help families and couples. And so I'm really curious to learn more about your model. Now, I know in our discussion today, you are going to cover about 3 learning objectives.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I don't always say those in the actual podcast, but I would like to tell everybody if I don't go over them individually, please check the website because they will be listed out there. So I know the first one that you sent over was to analyze and evaluate the dynamics of the unconscious and conscious relationship and apply techniques to help clients navigate and benefit from understanding these underlying relational dynamics. I was so intrigued by this learning objective because I can definitely get on board with the unconscious and conscious showing up in our relationships. So where would you like to start with that objective?
Well, yeah, let's start with the meeting. So that's usually how so I want to incorporate a little bit of what I do in the very first session along with the unconscious agenda.
Okay.
So in the perspective of most of the great teachers that I've learned from, there is an unconscious agenda when we meet somebody. And when we meet them, there's a thrill, there's an excitement, there's a, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm home. It feels easy. There's a flow. I can move into this, right? I want to spend all my time with you. I feel good with you, right? And what our unconscious is doing is trying to actually finish some unfinished business from childhood. And they're like, wow, you're going to be the one to do that for me. Everything I never received, all of my unmet needs, you're going to give them to me. And what we don't realize is that our unconscious is also picking up on familiarity from our family of origin. So anything that was unmet in that person that we're meeting, guess what we're doing? We're connecting to that very similar energy of what we came from. So then we flow, we get together, we create a commitment with that person many times. Sometimes we don't, sometimes it ends, but sometimes it becomes a commitment. And then we move into a power struggle with that same person, typically. The stronger the romantic beginning, that stronger pull, the one that tells us, oh my gosh, you're the love of my life. I can't live without you. That same energy goes right into the power struggle. And in the power struggle, we are then trying to, oh my gosh, you remind me of my mom, you remind me of my dad, you remind me of that, whoever my primary caretaker was, whoever that person was that didn't meet my need, you're now behaving like that person, right? So that's making me uncomfortable. And now guess what ends up happening? We either hopefully land into session, and if not, then we end up in some type of real rupture that we don't know how to repair. And if therapy isn't the place we go, unfortunately, it might be breaking up. And so that's the unconscious agenda, is actually to regain those lost parts that we were born to have. So we're born compassionate, full of love, full of energy, full of flow. And then whatever happened in life as I'm rolling along, I've learned to adapt to my environment, and I've lost parts of myself that I actually was born to be or was born as. Then as we move forward into that, we move into the relationship with those adaptations. The beautiful gift of the power struggle is now those are shining on me. They're light. They're lit up. Now I have all these parts that I want to have back with this person. We get it for a minute, but then all of a sudden there's a rupture. What do I do with that, right? So we're on the most basic level, if we're because of this is a course, we are trying to finish unfinished business, right? And we're trying to regain those lost parts in that relationship. It's all unconscious. It's all a reactive experience. And then in that place, hopefully we're able to give each other that thing. And we call that a gift, a double gift, because we match there. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. And it's interesting that this is coming up for in this conversation. My husband and I were just having a conversation the other day about how do people change? Or he asked me like, how do you think people change? And my first thought was because of a relationship. Like that was my it almost just like I couldn't help but say that. And I think we were talking about marriages and people being in relationship, and something about the experience of being in a relationship with somebody else and whatever your unconscious is giving you or you're being, receiving, there's something there that is stirred up. And I think so many people don't realize that what's happening between two people is just, it's a giant reflection of them in their own lives. So I can definitely get on board with this. I think it's just such a wonderful discussion point for so many people just to have it. So what do you do next? What do you do? I mean, do you explain this to the couple when they come in? Like what's
the
it look
first
like?
thing, that's what I wanted to do. That was like the next thing that I was thinking we could maybe focus on is the other piece I want to add to that just before we move on to the first session is that Virginia Satir talked a lot about this in the New People Making. So anyone out there who is interested in that, she talks about the unconscious connection or the unconscious meeting in that book specific. So that one in particular, I think could be useful when we're talking about this if we need more resources. But okay, so the first session, I'll go there. The couple comes in and they get to know me, and I ask them how they met, what that first experience was like. And what I tell them is it's important for me that I start at the beginning with you, not here in the middle. So they share with me from each perspective what it was like, what they felt in their body, what they saw, where were they? Sometimes did they even, get lucky on the first date? And what was that like for them? So it's just all the different parts that are fun in the very beginning. So we talk about that. I have them share. Usually that lights up with some of those same endorphins that happened when they first met, which is pretty cool. No matter the presenting issue, that seems to be lovely in the beginning to remember the first meeting. And it helps me know who they are from the beginning as well. And it also invites the idea experientially when they met and the process, rather than me explaining all of that, they get to actually experience the meeting in the first session. I think it's better. I've just noticed that whenever I'm working with couples, if they can have an experience with each other, it's better than explaining what we're doing, unless they're asking. Then I have each one. This is really cool what I do next, and I absolutely love this. Is I have them each one tell me what it is that they add to the relationship as far as difficulty or whatever the presenting problem is. What are you doing to help help me understand what your part of the difficulty is? And I think that's a very important part of this, because then we have less of he did this, she did that, you know, the name calling or the blaming or the shaming, and then me being judge and jury. I don't want that, right? So what I do is I'll say, let's say her name is Mary and his name is John. Let's just throw those two names out there. Mary, if you weren't here and John was here telling me all the things that you do to create difficulty in this issue, what would he tell me? What are all the things, if you weren't here, what would he tell me? And she gives me a list of all the things she thinks that he would say. This is a little complicated. So when you're watching this, rewind it again, because it takes a minute to get. And then I write down all the things that she thinks he would say.
Okay.
I do it both ways. And I ask her, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you think this really bothers him? So then after we're done with our list both ways, I ask them, well, it seems like maybe you guys are communicating better than you thought, because you know a lot of things that the other one would say. It's quite wonderful because they already have a win. And that's a really important part of this. So then I start to move into assumptions. And I think this is really important. That takes a long time. That takes, the first session's about an hour and a half long. So that takes me a minute to get to this point. At that point, I show them a coaster that I've collected. I got it like 20 years ago. I actually have it sitting right here. I show them the coaster and I have them explain to me what they see from their perspective. And I share with them what I see. And it's interesting because they're, of course, reactive. They're a little more settled in, usually. But then when I share with them, let me get it. It's sitting right here. I think this might be useful. This is the actual coaster. I have them describe this to me. I describe what I see. Let me get in the camera. And this is what I see. And I show them, aren't we both right?
Mm-hmm.
You just can't see what I can see.
Right. And so for those that are listening, I just want to be able to give them a visual of what this is, because you can always go and look at YouTube and see what she's doing, but it's two-sided. So what you're showing them is there's a design on one side, but as you hold it up, you see the back of it.
Yes.
So that's the point. Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Yes. And so, and the concept and the assumption there, and I always call them assumptions, is that we're both right. So it's super important that we're listening to each other to understand each other, not to respond. Because if I'm listening to understand, I then will understand you better, because what you see and what I see are two different things. And we're probably both right.
Right.
So with both rights, we can create a new understanding. And in our new therapy process, we call that collaborative therapy, right? Because we have two different energies coming together to create a new story. And we create that together. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is beautiful. And that's all done in one session so far, like where you are? Okay.
Yes, where I'm at right now is the very first session. So I share with them that there's a few assumptions. One is we're both right. I use the coaster.
Mm-hmm.
2 is behind every complaint is a wish.
Okay.
Very important, because we're here with a wish and we're going to try to find it. Okay. Conflict is growth trying to happen, meaning we're trying to grow and regain that lost part. So conflict is growth trying to happen. I try to do, when I'm teaching the assumptions, small little parts to it so that people can really take in, make it essential as possible, because they'll get lost in all the concepts. So I just keep it really short, and they call them Dawnisms, most of my couples. They, but I just recently talked to a couple that I've had for years and years, and it was just a random one. And they said, oh, this is a coaster moment. Ooh. The coaster really works for the couples. Like, I'm hearing feedback like, yeah, is this a coaster moment? And it really decreases reactivity, because it really helps us focus on this thing that we want to communicate and talk about.
I love that. I'm already imagining, couples coming away from that first session feeling empowered, that it's, because you hear from people like, oh, you go to couples therapy and the therapist is going to take a side, or they're not going to understand where I'm coming from. But the model that you're coming from really does such a great job of letting them know, like, I'm here for this relationship. Mm-hmm. I'm not here to be right or wrong. I'm here for, your relationship and how you want to move forward with it. So what do you do? I mean, and tell me, how often does it happen that you have somebody, one of the partners is like, I don't get it. It's not working. Like, what's your take on that? If it at that first session, I guess.
Oh, in the first session, if somebody says, I don't get it, meaning what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like they just kind of combative. They don't want to be there. I mean, I guess what I'm asking is, are there couples that come to that first session and you just know that it's not gonna work for them?
I haven't had a lot of that type of experience with this process, because it's so, especially the first session, we're so structured in our process. Every now and then, people will come in with something like an affair or something very big like that. And then I allow them just to share before we do this. This might be second or third session, okay, because there's so much going on and they need to be heard. Right. And they need a place to really just communicate everything, and there's a lot of reactivity. Typically, though, people are pretty open to the process, and part of that might be that they're referrals from other clients, and so they know what to expect already when they come in. Mm-hmm. Possibly. Okay. I'm just thinking, as you asked me that question, that might be part of it. And I get away with a lot because I'm pretty confident in what I'm doing. So I feel pretty like, this is what we're doing. This is the office for this. This is what we do here. And I feel really good about it. I've had a lot of success in it. And so I think, and I practiced on my kids for years before I brought it in. So I kind of had it like memorized and practiced some of the processes. So it was useful to practice on them as well.
Right.
Go in confident, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you're confident. And you've been doing it for, I mean, gosh, you said how many years? I forget what you told me.
I started building the couples part of my process, which is definitely my specialty, in 2006.
Okay. Yeah. So it's been a little bit that you've been able to really develop your model and to gain the traction and have success with many couples. That's just great. Is there anything else within the subjective, the unconscious versus conscious in the relationship, that is important to know?
I was looking at my notes because I wrote a few things down for you guys. I guess the other thing I would say that really stuck out for me is that the amount of emotional reactivity is directly proportionate to the attachment wound. Mm-hmm. A lot of this has to do with attachment. And so I think focusing on that would be an important part of this, and to not be fooled by the quiet one. A lot of times, just like in families, the reactive one that's outwardly reactive is the one who gets most attention. Like, oh my gosh, this one is yelping and crying and being outwardly aggressive. And the other part of the couple is quiet, but that partner can feel the reactivity in that other one, believe me. And they know exactly what they're doing subtly to create that reactivity, for sure. And part of it is because the couple needs it to release some of the energy. But the amount of emotional reactivity, whether it be quiet reactivity or outwardly expressed reactivity, has to do with where the attachment, the fear of loss, the fear of detachment. And a lot of times when we're faced with attachment or we're faced with authenticity of self, we'll choose attachment over authenticity. And that is at odds a lot in a couple. My need to communicate my authentic self is directly at risk with my attachment, pain, and wound and fear. So whatever my fear, a lot of times we'll give up our authenticity for our attachment. And how much reactivity we have is connected to that attachment pain.
That makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that would be the only thing that I think I haven't. Yeah.
Okay. How would that show up in the session, or how do you know when that's showing up? Can you give us an example?
Yeah, how do I find that?
Yeah.
A lot of times there's a panic. I notice one isn't talking or saying the thing that's on their mind. They won't communicate the thing out of fear. There is a lot of expressed reactivity and tears and pain and those real reactive clients, the ones that come in really, really reactive.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely feel it in my body. That parallel process is there, that panic. I can feel it even in the quiet ones, but that's attunement. If we can get attuned with them, we'll experience it with them. That's a whole nother podcast probably that we could do. But attunement is a big part of that, and a parallel process is a big part of that. Yeah, we could do a whole thing on that.
Yeah.
On learning cues, facial expressions, the connection with each other.
Are you tired of sitting in front of the computer to watch hours and hours and hours of recorded trainings so you can get your continuing education requirements fulfilled? Look, I was, and I decided to do something about it. I have created convenient on-the-go learning that's completely audio-based. I call them pod courses. Well, what's a pod course? Think of it as a hybrid between a captivating podcast and a self-study course tailored for you, my perpetually busy counselor friend. In my pod courses, you can explore subjects like addiction issues, ethics and values in counseling, holistic approaches, and much more, all while you're on the move. Whether you're commuting, jogging, relaxing at home, whatever, pod courses blend your favorite podcasts with enriching self-study courses, perfect for those always on the go. How it works. So tune in anywhere, anytime. Enjoy the pod courses on any device wherever podcasts are available. Quiz yourself, solidify your understanding with a brief quiz after each pod course. Then, last but not least, certify your smarts. Achieve a score of at least 80% to receive a certificate of completion. If you're curious to learn more about my pod course offerings, head to the link lisamustard.com/pod courses, or just click the link in the show notes. Pod courses are brought to you with pride by Mustard Consulting LLC, your trusted NBCC ASAP provider. So the second objective is analyze and evaluate various relational dynamics and apply these insights to develop strategies that enhance mutual understanding, respect, and healthy attachment behaviors in clients' relationships.
Okay, so we've already done a lot of that. This is kind of bleeding into each other and meshing into each other.
That's fine.
But to meet that agenda specifically is that first meeting, teaching the assumptions. So the very first meeting when I have them explain their part and we start to express what it is that I'm adding to difficulty, and then we can really kind of connect to the parts that I can do to put an action plan together. Mm-hmm. Because in the unconscious agenda, we have the unconscious agenda that we've signed up for unknowingly, and now we're moving into the conscious agenda. And in the conscious agenda, we have to create an action plan.
Okay.
SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relatable, and time specific. And those are very important whenever we have a goal in mind. And so my thought is that we've already done that somewhat in the first session, because we're starting to create an actual treatment plan around specifics that each one can do and act on to create that relationship that they want. In each session, we talk about specifically our past, our history together. Each relationship has this. They have a current day relationship that they have that is together, time spent together. And then there's time that we're not together, when we're apart. We're at work, we're with friends, we're with family, we're not spending time together. And then we have future plans, goals, wishes. I call that the 5-year vision. And then we put together even a longer one after that. But our first at hand goal is to create that 5-year vision, fantasy, whatever, with SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relatable.
So I'm sorry, real quick. Are their goals going to be like couple goals, or is it the individual goals that they bring to the relationship?
Couple. They're
Okay.
couple goals. They're based on the parts that we have already started at in the first session.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But we will get intentional about our future, and I start that with a vision. I have them close their eyes and imagine, where will you be sitting in 5 years? How old will your children be at that stage? Where will you be in 5 years? Where, how much money do you hope to have in the bank? What do you want your relationship to look like? Where do you want to live? What do you want things to look like? So I give them that opportunity to really create that wish and that vision. And then we start to put together specifics based on what we've already been talking about, right? We're going to use that as a framework throughout the whole time together, that first session when we make our list.
Okay.
So we don't put those specifically in our 5-year vision. We create a new 5-year vision, but we're already in that place because we've already created that list.
Gotcha. So do you, after they kind of do this vision, the guided vision, do you ask them to share together, or what each? Okay. And so what if they're drastically different? Like what if
they can be, that happens. We wouldn't like each other if they were the same, probably. I don't know.
Yeah,
Usually
right.
there's some differences, but we create something collaborative with each other.
Okay.
So we create a collaborative experience with them so that they can have that experience. And we don't put it on the list unless both agree. And so we create something with both of them. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I know that's cool. Interesting, huh? Yeah. It's not easy. It's not meant to be. It's not something that's real simple to put together, but we do it. Yeah. I just heard somebody recently say hard work is good work, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been listening lately to some different people saying that, and I'm like, I agree. Hard work is good work.
Yeah.
It could be fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It could be fun. It doesn't need to be stressful or difficult in the spirit of it. It could be, one beat at a time. I say all the time, we have all the time in the world. Mm-hmm. And we can only go as fast as our slowest part. So we take our time and we get it done.
Nice. I like that. Okay. So you create these goals and you have, your treatment plan that you're then working on. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes. And I think, pretty much. Then we move into the dialogue, which is your next agenda point.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah. So that would be develop and apply effective dialogical techniques to enhance clients' communication skills and promote deeper understanding and connection in their relationships.
Yes. And then, so nature wants us to be whole, not happy. I hear people say all the time, I want to be happy. I'm not happy. Okay. Well, there's joy and there's connection and there's safety and then there's happy. Mm-hmm. I don't know that most of my couples are going to experience a lot of happy when they're struggling with children who are having difficulty, or even having children, because children are not easy, or in-laws that are passing, or parents that are passing. And that a lot of times in life, it isn't happy. There's a lot of things happening. We have a lot of stuff that couples experience, right? We're meant to be connected ever after and loving ever after, not necessarily happily ever after. That's an interesting idea, this happily ever after thing. Okay, so nature wants us to be whole, not happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very important to think about that. I know that's difficult, and especially for us therapists to keep in mind, and that many times in life with couples, we encounter difficult situations. We have death of parents, we have difficulties with children, we have loss of jobs, we have depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, addiction. Lots of things can come into the couple. I don't know that we're meant to be happy in that experience. We're meant to be connected in that experience so that we can have a partner to go through that with, so that we can move through that with somebody. It's partnership. So we need to undo and unlearn that one. Every day we do an unlearning or relearning or unlearning in our life. Hopefully we're being conscious about that. And in that process, we can unlearn this happily ever after idea. Because with that in our mind, happily ever after, oh, I'm not happy. Well, no. Sometimes we're not. And we can't be. And that's okay, as long as I'm connected. So we need safety, and we need a safe way to create a safe environment to communicate so that we can be heard. Because we're listening to understand, not to respond. So, and I talk a lot to couples about this ping pong idea. We're not playing ping pong, we're playing catch. And we're holding it. They throw us the ball, we look at it, we analyze it, we describe it, this is what I see, and then we hand it back.
Mm-hmm.
And then our partner does the same. So I need to be able to understand the person talking to me. They need to know what they're saying. A lot of times we don't know what we're feeling. So we're trying to share something and we really don't even know what we're thinking or feeling. We have ideas. We have a story we've created, but right? The story I tell myself is this, but maybe I'm right, maybe I'm not. Mm-hmm. So I share that thing with them. But then that might not be coming out exactly as I might expect. And then they have to be willing to hear it and ready. They need to be able to interpret it and then send information back that can be helpful. So we have a process for that. It's called the dialogue. And it's beautiful. And it gives you the opportunity to really find the pace that you need to create that communication that you're looking for.
Okay.
So we have a sender and we have a receiver. And the sender sends the information the best way they know how. And first they ask for an appointment. Is now a good time to send this, to say this thing that I want to say? Right? That person needs to say yes or no. They might have to use the restroom. They might need to go get a drink. We don't know. But within the next bit of time, they need to say, yes, I'll be back at this time to have a conversation with you so that you would talk about this thing. So they send the thing, they send the information. That person then says, what I heard you say. What I heard you say is, and they respond back with what I heard you say. And then they ask, is there more? And did I get you? Because that's important. I might be jumbled. I'm a foster child, right? Remember, I'm a foster child. I have a lot of addiction in my family. I have a lot of energy that comes up when my attachment pain gets poked. So I might say it not in the way that I really maybe think it, or that it might come out not the way. So I might say, well, you almost got me. Let me try again. Maybe I'm not communicating exactly the way that I hope. And then in that place, I resend. And then he remirrors with me.
Mm-hmm.
This is the thing that I heard you say. Did I get you? And is there more? I share all the things about that I can, that I need to. And then he says, in summary, what I heard you say is, and he tells me in summary what he heard, all the things. And then in that place, he says, you make sense to me. I imagine you might be feeling one-word feelings only. Because remember, a feeling is only one word. I can't feel like you're doing this. I can't feel like you're doing that. That's not a feeling. A feeling is sad, hurt, afraid. These are feelings. Not, I feel like you're this. So I imagine you might be feeling, and he just takes a guess at it. He just takes a guess at it, what he thinks. And then asks, is that what you're feeling? And then from there, I might respond, yeah, and I have this too. Or no, I don't know if I feel that one, but maybe this one. You know? And then he might respond with, I have something I can add to that I think might be helpful. And then he sends what he would like to send about that. So we have a sender, a receiver, and there's a process. And I can send a link to that, what I've put together around that, so that people can have that as well.
Okay. Okay, great.
Yeah. More specifically, for sure.
Yeah. This reminds me of communication skills for therapists. When we're that very first class that I had to take in grad school, just, it just reminds me of that. And maybe I take it for granted. I know how to do that. I don't always do it when I'm talking with my husband because I might be emotionally reactive and I'm having a hard time, bringing myself down. But I think the more you practice it and the more it becomes your normal way of communicating, and it takes practice. It is not easy, for a lot of people to grasp. We think it's going to be easy, but in the heat of the moment, it can be tough. Be really tough.
Yes. And it's hard for me. I break out of it all the time. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm just gonna I just have something to say. I can't. I'm the worst one. I'll break from pattern. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try again.
Yeah.
It's just not easy sometimes, especially when we've had a lot, because remember, it's directly proportionate to our attachment.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a little girl, first thing that happened, I go to school when I'm 3 to some daycare, preschool, and then I'm picked up and I'm taken somewhere strange and different. Well, there's no way for me to not be her sometimes. I'm her sometimes.
Right.
And especially in my relationship when I feel threatened by that loss. Like, is that going to happen? Like, that's in my cellular makeup now.
Right.
We learn more and more about that in The Body Keeps the Score, in Dan Siegel's research. We find more and more about how our body is responding to whatever happened when we were little now. So if we feel at risk or in danger, we will respond that way in our relationship.
Sure. Definitely. Yeah. I know I do that. I do it too with my kids. I notice that it comes out a lot because, I just have to say this, I have to get this out. And there's all these fears and worries and anxiety about, I have to explain this to you because I want you to learn to make healthy choices and decisions for yourself. And sometimes they just look at me like, you're nuts. We get it.
I used to open up Positive Discipline. You know that Jane Nelson old Positive Discipline book? Yeah. I used to open it up and show my kids and say, okay, I did this and you're supposed to do this. It says it right in the book.
Yeah.
And they'd look at me like, I literally opened the book. I'm like,
right. Look at the book. Come on.
You're supposed to be responding.
Right. This is how it goes. Look at the book. Yeah, I know. I know. Isn't that funny? It's so funny.
Oh my gosh. It is. It's interesting to raise children and how it shows up as, that would be a whole nother podcast.
Yes.
Would be the parenthood. It all shows up similar with our kids. Yes. The same reactivity, the same energy, all of that. I recommend a dialogue on the daily with my couples. If they could take the time and carve out the time to do that. And even if it's just, this happened today at work, I'd like to share what happened at work today. And this is an issue I'm having at work. This is something that happened with the kids today. And then get the mirror, have partner mirror with you. This is what I heard you say. I imagine you might be feeling. You know what ends up happening is we clear it out with each other. It doesn't always have to be in conflict with our partner that we process this. We could do it with anything. And then especially what I like to end every dialogue with is an appreciation. We never end a session without an appreciation at the end. One thing I appreciate about you, and then a mirror. what I heard you say is that you appreciate this about me, and that both ways. There's always an appreciation, and yes, there's sometimes there's a struggle with that, but we have all the time in the world, and we can wait, and we can breathe through it, and we can find our appreciation. There is one. I promise. Yes, we can find it. High conflict stuff, affairs, stuff like that, maybe not.
Mm.
Maybe it's one-sided on those sessions for a minute, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's been a serious breach in the contract and the experience and the flow and what their agreement is with each other.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, but we have great success with even those bigger issues with addiction, ruptures, like the relapse stage of addiction, when that comes in, or affairs, or we do have success with this process as well.
Oh, that's so good to hear. So would you say, do you take a little bit of a different approach with those type of high conflict issues? Okay.
I don't start with I wait for that first session for a few sessions. I give them opportunity to really share what's happening. Mm-hmm. I do the mirroring, old school Bowen style. I triangle in as the therapist, and I share with them, this is what I'm hearing you say, but the Carl Rogers way, like more soft, not as direct. And I might say, okay, so I'm hearing you say, so yeah, you make sense, and I'm here with you. I've got you. I'm listening. And I'm doing more of that mirroring, not with each other yet.
Sure.
So I triangle myself in the therapeutic triangle. And because a lot of times the person who actually either relapsed with drugs or alcohol or had the affair is just as injured as the other one. They're coming in just as fragile, just as broken, just as bewildered, lost. Just all those things are happening for them too. So they need a lot of nurturing. I many times will address them and say, now's the time to say all of it and get it all out, so that you don't have to hold it all by yourself ever. And we can help you with that too. And the partner gets to see how difficult it is for them too. Yeah. I think that's good for them to know that their partner is struggling just as much. Yeah. What we know about the reptilian brain is that it doesn't know direction, right? We learned that from Dan Siegel, that at the top of the brainstem there, our body doesn't know which way is what.
Yeah.
And so that, I used to tell my kids that all the time if they had a fight. I'd say, well, of course your feelings are hurt. You just said some things that your brain doesn't know who's talking. It thinks you're talking to yourself. It doesn't know that you didn't say those things. So of course your low feelings are hurt and you're struggling, right?
Yeah.
And that's just how the body works.
Yes. Oh, it's fascinating. It's just fascinating. Wow. Okay. All right.
It's beautiful work. I can't believe I was so lucky to walk into his room that day and start the process with Harville Hendrix first, and then Hedy Schleifer and Gabor Mate, all in the same ways. I've just stumbled into their rooms.
Yeah.
And it all just created all this beautiful flow. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I love that. I love to hear you stumbled into it. And so what would you say to somebody who's listening right now and they want to get into couples work? Maybe they've had a little bit of experience as a couples work, and they would like to, take a deeper dive. What would you recommend for them? Which direction would you encourage them to go?
Right now, we're going to be offering some classes if people are interested in becoming, there's not necessarily a certification with me, but there'd be more understanding, and I have a process maybe to, at least for now. Mm-hmm. I think in the future, you and I are going to be planning some classes too for couples. So that might be good to start with. Mm-hmm. If you want to get certified, a lot of the people who I worked with are now not doing it anymore. So I know that Harville Hendrix is not doing those courses anymore himself. There are some imago therapists that are doing it, but that imago therapy again is different than what I'm doing. I'm doing a little offshoot from that.
Okay.
I know the Haiti Schleifer isn't doing it anymore either.
Yeah.
So, everybody's just kind of doing some different things now. But there are some imago therapists for sure, but it's very structured. And so if you're into that, great. That's one avenue.
Mm-hmm.
I think Compassionate Inquiry is offering some pretty cool, but that's not couples. That's more individual. I'm bringing it into the couples work, but that's just my creative flow.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that would be the way. Maybe we do the classes and guide you through the process from beginning to end and help you create that practice you're looking for.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, yeah, so many of the, original creators of these models and therapies they're getting older, they're going in a different direction. And then you see other models kind of coming up over the years. What is it? EFT with Sue Johnson. Everybody, there was a big excitement towards that. And I know that that can be a wonderful model for, did you ever practice any of her ways of doing things?
I haven't. I've seen her. I stumbled into her room too.
Yeah.
And at a conference. And I liked her. I just never, what I love about her is it's free.
Yeah.
Pull her up online and learn and read her books. And you don't have to become certified. I think that I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love the opportunity to take specific classes and not have to stick to a rigid, repetitive pattern. Isn't that what Salvador Minuchin told us to be careful of, right? Like, let's not get into a rigid, repetitive pattern of behavior. And I would really hate for our sessions to look like that too.
Sure.
And that's created out of fear, right? I better have a structure. If I don't have a structure, then I might get lost, or I might, not be effective,
right?
Or whatever our wound is that comes up whenever we're teaching these things or practicing.
Right. Yeah. Because underneath it's our own, worry or insecurity of, am I doing this right? Or am I going to be helpful? I mean, that's my struggle a good bit.
Yeah.
But I really like your model because while it acknowledges the individual therapist by using the therapist gifts and intuition and expertise, it also gives you like a framework or a roadmap that you can utilize. And I think it sounds great. It makes me want to, jump into couples work. I feel energized by it, not like, oh my gosh, couples work.
Yeah.
There's a different energy there, if you can tell.
Yeah, yes.
Like see me slumped down in my chair, because couples work can be it can be hard. It can be really difficult. And I am excited to kind of, learn more from you. I just want to make sure that we've covered everything that you said you wanted to cover for this pod course. So is there anything regarding differentiation that you would like to cover? I feel like there's some good nuggets there that maybe we could end with.
I like that you're saying that. I think that is what my husband and I were just recently talking about.
Yeah.
We don't really, because we met when we were so young and we were from addiction families, we fused little. And so we don't really understand, our bodies don't really understand that we're separate. So if he does something, I might get embarrassing, I might feel embarrassed, or vice versa, right? Because we really don't understand that we're separate.
Yeah.
What the dialogue offers us, the specific dialogues, there's many of them, by the way, and I use sentence stems. There's so much more to learn around all of this that I would love to talk about, which we don't have time in the 1 hour. But in that process of the dialogue, when we're sitting across from each other, looking at each other, that's another piece we didn't talk about. We're not touching, and we're looking at each other eye to eye. Looking into each other's eyes close enough that we can really feel each other, and we are mirroring each other. We're creating a differentiated space. And I really want to talk about that. I've kind of created a different understanding of differentiation. When that was created by Murray Bowen, he's a man. He's a male. Okay. I'm a female. I've had children in my womb. I've birthed 3 children of my own. I've nursed them. In order to become pregnant, I'm entered. I don't enter. Men enter. Women are entered, depending on heterosexual couples specifically. It's different for others. And then that we go there with that. It's a different process. For me, I understand it so differently. I understand fusion differently. There's no way for you and I to not experience fusion because we're mothers. Okay, we've had babies in us. We've been one with them. We've birthed them. We've raised them. We are really have a different experience with fusion and differentiation. I've created a infinity around differentiation, and at the end is cut off. At the very end of the 8 on the each end, inside this part in the middle here, I call that differentiation, and when it crosses, I call that fusion. And in every healthy relationship, we flow through the infinity. And we cross through fusion when we're making love, when we're laughing, all of that beautiful stuff. We're fusing. I do this with a couple. I do show them this. This is how I bring in the sex and sexuality talk. I talk about orgasms here at the fusion. We flow through the fusion. We leave the fusion, hopefully, and can move into our regular day, and we differentiate. And then we go back through and we flow. It's only when we get stuck in one of those that if we get stuck in differentiation, if we get stuck in cutoff, if we get stuck in fusion, that's when we have difficulty in the relationship. So we just need to unstick that flow and get it rolling, right? If I get stuck in individualism and inability to connect, I might not ever get to fusion. I might not ever have laughter or orgasm or connection, deep intimacy with my partner, because I'm staying in this kind of cutoff space, right? I've gotten stuck here.
Right.
So I try to find that flow with them. What the dialogue gives us is a differentiated experience. It brings us directly into differentiation. And then my hope is that they'll go home and fuse.
Okay.
Move back into flow. And I'm very direct about that.
Yeah.
We talk about sex. We talk about how much they would want it or need it. And when are they fusing in a safe and healthy way? And are they disconnecting? My husband and I were just talking about, like, we need to be able to do more dialogue so that we can differentiate more, so that we can understand that we're not the same person. Because we started so young, we don't really get it 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what if you are so differentiated that you're older? I guess I'm just, I'm trying to, what's the opposite of that look like?
The opposite of?
When you're younger, then you're so fused, you're not differentiated, versus when you're older and you come together and you are so differentiated. Did I say that correctly? Okay.
Yeah. Or cut off.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It depends on how connected that first meeting is, right? We go back to the unconscious agenda. Because remember, I've known you my whole life. You feel so familiar to me that I've known you my whole life. So I think that we could create that even in our 60s and 70s if we meet somebody and it connects with us at that unconscious agenda is strong enough, and that person matches my imago or the image of my parents.
Right.
Then you might be fused to that person. Yeah.
Wow.
You might end up with the same issue.
But then if you think about the people that are so different from each other, but they're together, how does that work? I guess.
Yeah. It's the unconscious.
Okay. It's always the unconscious. Bringing you together for something. Okay. Or repelling you for a reason.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Makes sense. I get it. See, I can do this.
You can.
I can get back into couples work. Dawn, you're inspiring me. You guys are inspiring me. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
When we put together the course, which I'm working on right now, take it into steps, and it'll be more detailed each step along the way, so that we can really understand it at its depth. And we'll bring in all these great founders because I'm old family systems, right?
Yeah.
I bring in Bowen, I bring in Manushan, I bring in Virginia Satir. I even bring in Jenlin when he talks about focusing, because we look into each other's eyes. That's another thing I have the couples do in the beginning, because I want to see what that looks like. I have them look into each other's eyes and say nothing, and just look.
Okay.
Close, like where you're nursing a baby, kind of close. I want them to see it. Like, I want to feel, what does that connection look like, so that I can really understand what we're working with, right? And that's called focusing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's called really connecting at the most beautiful, at the nugget, at the center. Yes.
Amazing. I love that. I bet you get all kinds of different reactions and responses to that exercise.
Tears, laughter. And remember, people laugh and smile many times in the process because they don't want to cry. It keeps us from crying. It's an automatic defense to stop tears. If whenever you were little, you weren't allowed to cry for whatever reason, you'll smile to keep yourself from crying.
Okay.
Yeah. So I asked him, can you say it one more time, but with a straight face? Just relax your face and now say it again. Always.
Okay. Okay. Well, this has just been great. I have one more question because I'm super nosy and curious. So, how does this affect your marriage? How is it you being a marriage and family therapist affect your marriage, and also with your kids? Because I know you've mentioned it a little bit here and there. I'm just really curious. Like, what's that like? Because I have my own experience.
I think my kids have really benefited. I'm not sure that my husband really appreciates all the time my ability to parallel process and to be that intuitive gift that I've grown through the process. Also, I think my biggest challenge, my largest challenge, is all these beautiful people that I meet with that have done some pretty intense things, and how they've been able to hide it. So there's a little bit of that for me that shows up as a couples therapist in my marriage, where I don't know that it's actually affecting it, but it's affecting me. So I need to continue to go to my own therapy and process, and do my own self-healing, just because there's so many beautiful people and wonderful humans that I've met that have just done some things that they're healing. And I love that I'm the one that is helping them.
Yeah.
But it does put some doubt in my mind, like it would anybody. Is that a risk for any of us? And then directly proportionate with my attachment wound.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I love that you do this work and that you continue to do this work and that you are so devoted to this field. I'm so grateful that we connected. I'm just so glad that I think Jessica emailed me one day and I was like, yeah, this sounds interesting. Let's connect. I am grateful for you guys coming, into my life. So is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners?
Let me make sure I've gotten everything that mattered to me. I took a lot of notes. I think that's it. I honestly would love to encourage everybody, if you're at all interested, to start some of this and practice. And I'm going to put the dialogue out so you could practice at home or practice with your partner.
Okay.
I think we need more of this, because if we could really heal the couple and help heal the couple, we're going to have a lot of, the whole world's going to have some impact on this, the whole community. And then further, if we could really help people understand that happiness is really not our goal, connection is.
Yeah.
And connection is the opposite of all the things that are painful to us.
Exactly.
If we could find that.
Right.
So.
Yes. No, I agree. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I have one more thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is something I invited in the beginning of the session. I talk about the adaptations that are pretty common with couples, and I definitely want to talk about this so that you could take this in your practice. And that is that there's a turtle and then there's a hailstorm typically. And the turtle tends to adapt by getting quiet and going inward. We already talked about it, but I haven't used the metaphor yet. And then the hailstorm comes out and tries to find connection that way. So the turtle will go in and get quiet, will not respond, might not say a lot. The hailstorm says more, is more aggressive. And then our goal is to help the minimizer, maximizer, it's what we call the minimizer, maximizers, to balance a little bit so that we can be heard. So that we really want to help the hailstorm calm down to a sprinkle, because we're not going to change that 100%. We're just going to calm it down. And then the turtle to come out and just enjoy the mist a little bit. Because guess what? If the hail's coming down, the turtle's going to go, oh no, I'm not coming out.
Right. Yeah.
For sure. It's not safe.
Yeah.
Right. So we want our session to be set up in a way so that the clients feel safe enough that they can relax some of those adaptations they learned when they were little of hailstorming and turtling. So I use that metaphor a lot. I just want to invite that in.
Yeah. I really like that. I really like that. And the more you share about your model, the more I'm imagining what sessions are like, you know, the what's the word I'm looking for? Like the richness of what you're getting from each person in the relationship and what they're sharing. And I can only imagine, you know, the different directions that it can go. So staying on task with your focus of, you know, showing them the unconscious and the conscious and the turtle and the hailstorm and the dialogue, all of these things that's your, you know, like your MO, but at the same time, you're in the room with them and it's a lot to keep up with, you know?
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of, I think, of couples work. So I'm so excited for everyone to hear this podcast and to learn more. And of course, I'll put the links to your websites and the links that you're going to share. We'll have those in the show notes. But if you guys, once again, if you would like to get the continuing education contact hour, of course, listening to this is absolutely, you know, 300% free. But if you would like to purchase the contact hour to get credit, just head over to my website, lisamustard.com/pod courses, and you will see it listed there. So Dawn, thank you again so much for being here. This has just been amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Please note that the Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and not a substitute for professional medical or mental health advice. Always consult with your therapist, doctor, or physician before implementing any suggestions from the show. The Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard is edited and engineered by Chelsea Weaver. If you're looking to start a podcast or ready to take the editing off of your plate, be sure to visit chelseaweaverpodcasting.com. Well, that wraps up another episode of The Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard. I know there are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and I'm thankful you've chosen to listen to mine. Be sure to visit lisamustard.com to access the show notes and discover all the pod courses and other continuing education offerings. And I'd be grateful if you subscribe to the show. Thank you.